for as smart as LeBron is, the Westbrook move was really it was just a bad fit.
And everybody knew it. Like, it's not one, like, we in the media get a lot wrong. No question about it. I just said the Knicks bet bad. Sorry to all the people that paid attention to me, 4 months ago on that one. But everybody knew that Westbrook was the wrong move. Everybody knew he was not going to become a spot-up shooter. Everybody knew he was a net negative without the ball in his hands. He doesn't change. Like, he tweaks a little bit, and to his credit, has done that with James Harden, with Bradley Beal, has made efforts. Those coaching staffs there have told me he's made efforts to do that, but he's not going to become Jason Kidd at a later stage of his career, become this high-level shooter that can play off the ball. Everybody knew that. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield, for all of his warts, 40+% three-point shooter, built to play off LeBron James. Colin, name me one shooter who has struggled playing off LeBron James in history. I mean, Kyle Korver got like 3 more years on his career because he played off of LeBron James. Like, how much money has this guy made? It's just incredible. So, like, it's one of those things where when everything kind of came out, and the Kings were the first. I talked to people in Sacramento, they're like, we thought we had a deal. Like, we thought this was done. This was 11th hour. We thought Buddy Hield was going. Kuzma coming back. Like, it was all set. It's one of those things when I realized all the things that were in play, I'm like, what am I missing here? Like, where am I going to look stupid? Like, at what point am I like, that's what I missed there. Pelinka was right. LeBron was right. Russ can do this. Nothing told me that. I talked to Frank Vogel about this. I was like, before the season, I'm like, Frank, like, why am I wrong? Why is everybody wrong that this is going to work? He just believed, Russ, take pressure off LeBron. He's going to be a better shooter than you think. Like, none of it made any sense then, and it makes even less sense now.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, personnel's hard for Danny Ainge. Personnel's hard for the best GMs in this league. Players aren't built for it. You know what I mean? Seriously, it's so, I've always said, if I didn't do this, I'm not qualified. But if I had given football as much effort for 40 years as I have broadcasting and could be an NFL GM, it's my dream job beyond what I do. I have missed Bill Polian, the legends. You whiff constantly in personnel. So it's just one of those things where you think like Brady knows that Gronk would fit in Tampa. They work together. But, man, you just don't know. And the other thing is, Westbrook was loved by Harden. He's loved by LeBron. You ever notice all those guys? They all love each other. Doesn't mean they can play together. I never bought into Westbrook and Harden. They're boys. They love each other. Their games don't work at all.
Worked in Oklahoma City, but an entirely different situation and an entirely different James Harden. It just was never going to happen in Los Angeles. And to this day, like, I want to either write or read like a detailed TikTok of everything that happened, like a oral history of those like 2 days in LA where this all kind of came together, where a deal with Hield was vetoed and a deal with Westbrook seemed like the right thing to do. You're right. Personnel, it's tough. I mean, I spent months clobbering Brad Stevens for some of the deals that he made. I thought he should have traded Marcus Smart. I thought he should have matched the offer Devin Fournier. I thought he shouldn't have given up a first-round pick with Kemba Walker. That all worked out. So oftentimes GMs know what they're doing, but this was one of those situations where it's like, there's no way this is going to work. Everybody knows it, but you. Why and what are we missing in this dynamic?
Yeah, I think players really, really like Westbrook. They like him.
They do. He's an excellent teammate. And more than that, with LeBron, you watch Westbrook from afar, you go up against him in the playoffs, and you see how hard he plays. And I got to believe somewhere in LeBron's mind, like LeBron's going, all right, I can work with that. Like, I can mold that. Like, and you saw in the offseason, he was working out with Westbrook all the time. There's had to have been a part of LeBron that's saying, look, I can be the one that helps him make that turn, that makes that evolution to a different form of game. I think there maybe was a bit too much arrogance on the part of LeBron to believe that, because it clearly hasn't worked out.
Well, it's like when people have affairs, they choose the opposite of what they're married to. So Anthony Davis shows up out of shape, not really committed, doesn't really give you great minutes regularly. I think LeBron looked at AD and thought, okay, Westbrook will fill in on the passion side and the commitment side. He's flawed, but I got AD. He's the worst kind of flawed. I'm not even sure if he's there every night. And I do think part of LeBron was like, okay, this star's not working. That guy will fill the gaps. Like, there's part of the psychology. LeBron's smart. Part of it is he was trying to put a Band-Aid or solve his other co-stars' issues.
Yeah. What he probably thought, and look, this is something I've been kind of working on and looking into the last, couple of months off and on. Like why Westbrook hasn't become a better shooter is one of the most bizarre stories I can think of, because he is a guy that works. Like, he does work hard in the offseason. I would talk to Oklahoma City people about this, because like, not only is he not improving as a shooter, he's getting worse in many areas. Like, look at his free throw numbers over the last 4 or 5 years. They've started to dip into that kind of 60% range. You just don't see that from players. Like, as they go on and they get better coaching and they work on specific things, their skills, they improve in those areas. What somebody in Oklahoma City said to me, and this stuck with me, was that when you look out on the floor and see Russell Westbrook, you see this like ball of energy, hyper athletic guy that can do anything when he's out there. It's remarkable, even at age, 32 now, that he can do all the things that he can do. They would say to me, you have no idea how much work he does right up until the opening tip to make sure his body's able to do that. And that continues in the offseason. He spends so much time working on his body, making sure his body is able to do the things that he wants it to do, that it comes at the cost of improving your skill level, of doing the things you need to do to get better in those key areas. So I thought that was interesting, that like he just spends so much time, all the things you do before a game, like stretching and different weight workouts and everything before a game to get ready and go out there between the lines, that he just hasn't been able to commit as much as he should have on improving his outside shot.
Well, Chris Paul is not nearly as athletic, but is one of the great mid-range shooters ever. Derrick Rose, John Wall, Russell Westbrook, absurdly, cartoonishly athletic, start relying on athleticism. And they don't work on their shot. Like, it's not that they don't work hard. To your point, do they work on the wrong thing? Iverson, by the way. Like, when you start looking at the guards who are pretty good shooters, there's a lot of these guys, like, it's the Chris Paul thing, where he's athletic, but that's not his fastball. That's his off-speed pitch, his IQ, his court leadership, his kind of dogged, in-your-face personality. I'm reaching here, but there is a history of these hyper-athletic point guards who can just never get it right shooting. Wall, Derrick Rose, and Westbrook are three that just jump out to me.
Yeah, and like the difference with Wall and to a lesser degree, or not Wall, Rose, and to a lesser degree Chris Paul, is that at certain points in their careers, they accepted that their athleticism wasn't what it once was. Like Derrick Rose, who was as big a high flyer as anyone before the leg injuries, accepted the reality of his situation, and at that time decided and worked to become better at other areas, become a much better perimeter shooter, become a much better half-court floor general. Chris Paul, he was never on that level of Westbrook and Wall and Rose, but like tweaked his game a lot to be more stationary, grounded, not going to the basket, using that floater a lot more often, using that one spot in the floor that he loves, that kind of elbow extended, to make that fadeaway jump shot, perfecting that, because you didn't need to be athletic for that. Wall's a good example because he's on a Westbrook level. Like right now, Wall is still trying to get back to being the John Wall we saw in his prime in Washington. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be the fastest guy in the NBA anymore. He's not going to be the most athletic guy on the floor when he's out there. Can he make that transition? We haven't seen him this year, but when he comes back, can he make that transition to a reasonable three-point shooter who is more efficient in the half court than he used to be?